MD Prepper here, discussing my new hobby for prepping, beekeeping. Why do I do it? A lot of reasons, and I might surprise you with saying that the most obvious first reason is not honey. Number one reason is pollination. Bees will pollinate and increase your yield of food and everything you're growing. Not only will it increase my own personal yields of stuff on my property, it'll also increase everything of my neighbors. Bees will forage average of 2 miles up to 4 miles, maybe 5 on the upper end for pollen and nectar, depending on the flow of things at the time. So not only am I enhancing my own personal yield of things, I'm also doing all my neighbors a favor. So that's a great idea. Bee populations are dropping in the wild due to something called colony collapse disorder. Now, I'm not some big environmentalist or anything like that, but you know, having my own bees, that's a good idea. I'm just going to increase my own stuff that I'm growing. Apples, pears, fruits, vegetables, just anything that needs pollination, I'm going to get a better yield, and so are all my neighbors. So that's going to enhance things in a prepping situation. They get better yields, good for me. That's just some extra produce I can get from them, etc. Number two would be the honey, obviously. Now, honey lasts forever, and it is the original natural sugar source and sweetener in the ancient world. Before sugarcane was introduced, I believe by Alexander the Great, to the Western world, everything was honey. It was all about honey. And the good thing is, honey lasts forever. If it's properly stored, it will not spoil. Even if it crystallizes, you can melt it back down and reconstitute it. Fantastic uses for honey. It's tasty, good for cooking, etc. Unless you live in a place that allows for sugarcane production, or in the northern reaches, maple syrup or something like that, most places you're stuck with honey as a natural source if you want to go all natural. So honey is obviously wonderful for foods and condiment type additions to things. It's also got a lot of health properties, etc., which I'll talk about. Now, number three, wax. Beeswax. This is some of my first burr comb that I got off here recently. I'll talk about this later in other videos. But the wax can be used for all sorts of things. You can make candles. If you're a prepper, how are you going to light things in a grid down situation or anything like that, long-term sort of situation? Well, I've got a generator. Yeah, you're going to run out of gas. Well, I've got solar. Well, that's great too, but anything mechanical can fail. Beeswax won't fail. It doesn't go bad on you. So I can make candles out of this. I can make lotion. I can make soaps. I can make hand creams, varnishes, all sorts of stuff. Also out of propolis that comes with the beehive. Just all sorts of good things. And I can sell it, of course, but the wax is an ultimate option. You say, well, I've got petroleum jelly stored up. Yeah, that's fine, that's great, but unless you've got a oil well in your backyard and have the ability to break that stuff down to its components and make more petroleum jelly, wax is going to be the way to go. Beeswax has been used for thousands of years for lots of purposes, and I'll talk about that in other videos. Number four is medicinal purposes. That's a big topic I'm going to cover here. Honey is good for wound care. It's good for allergies, especially if it's local. It doesn't get any more local than your own backyard, boys and girls. Beeswax, obviously lotions and hand creams, those sorts of things, soaps, etc. Every female in my family that I've been buying from the honeybee store here locally, at Christmas, I get them gifts from the honeybee store. And they no longer ask if they're getting things from the honeybee store. Now they say, I am getting things from the honeybee store. What are you getting me? Well before Christmas starts. So that's just a given at this point because it's so superior to everything else they're using out there. All the chemicals and whatnot. The basic beeswax and honey combo just is so much superior. So, on the medicinal side of things, you got wound care, you got propolis. I'll go into that in other videos. That's bee glue or bee super glue, if you will. It's from resin, saps, things like that. Lots of medicinal purposes there. Never done that myself, but I've read up on it. Talk about that later. But a lot of medicinal purposes, especially if you're in a grid down scenario or prepping scenario. Next, profits. You can sell all this stuff. Anything you make from bees, you can sell, and there's one heck of a market for it. Everybody wants local honey. Local honey is awesome. Stuff I buy from the store that came out of clover honey from Kansas is not nearly as good as the local stuff. And any honey you make yourself is ultimately better. It just is. And it's going to be containing the pollens and allergens, things like that from your local region. So lots of benefits there. You can sell honey anywhere between $4 to $6 a pound, maybe $7 a pound. Just depends on your region. But last year in South Carolina, the average was between $3 to $7 a pound. Your average hive puts out 50 to 100 pounds of honey a year, so you do the numbers on that. That'll pay for all your gear and setup of the hive after the second year. You don't get much honey the first year. And after that, it's just money. Profits. You can sell the propolis, you can sell the wax, you can make candles, you can make lip balm, just anything like that if you want to make a little side project and make some extra cash. Finally, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a great idea. Something fun to do, something different. Just because I wanted to. I've been thinking about it for a few years and finally got around to it. Now, for you guys living in suburbia who don't live out in the country. Living out in the country, easy to have bees, or chickens, or hogs, or goats, or cattle, or anything else. But if you live in the city, if you live in suburbia, etc., you're kind of limited on your options, just to be honest. Especially if you've got homeowners associations, those sorts of things. Most homeowner associations, most towns and cities do not have restrictions on bees. So as far as rearing your own critters out there, and livestock, if you would consider bees livestock, you can have bees almost anywhere. You can have them in suburbia. You can have them in your backyard, and as long as you handle things right, it's not going to be a problem with the neighbors. As long as you bribe them with a little bit of honey every year, they're going to love you and be fine. And also their plants and their gardens are going to look so much better. You're going to be doing them a favor, honestly. You just got to teach them and educate them properly, and you're good to go. So, unlike chickens, which a lot of people have problems with, which they shouldn't, but that's another side topic, I digress, honeybees can be kept everywhere. They're quiet. They don't crow like roosters. They don't cluck like chickens. You know, they don't have the call of a goat or anything like that, moo of a cow. You can have bees just about anywhere. If you live in suburbia, you can have them in your backyard. If you live in the city, if you live in an apartment complex and you have access to the roof, you can have bees on the roof. There's lots of beekeeping on the rooftops in Paris, France, and from what I understand, New York City in certain parts of it. Bees are a good thing, and they can be kept everywhere, especially if you know what you're doing. So as far as accessibility, you can do this. So this is something else you can add to your preps. You know, honey's going to be useful, especially in a grid down scenario. If you're the honey man, especially if you're making honey wine, i.e. mead, you're good to go. You're golden. You've got an everlasting food supply that's got uses for health, wound care, allergies, just everything. This just covers a lot of ground. So bees just seem to make sense for me, especially where I'm at. The previous owner of my property had bees, and when I viewed the place, was going to buy it, I had walls of muscadines, walls of blackberries, wild raspberries, just all sorts of stuff growing on the property. Once she took the bees the second summer, life sucked. Off of about 20 acres, I had about one handful of muscadines, despite all the walls of muscadine vines. They're just all over the place. And the problem was lack of bees. So, lack of pollination. So it just made sense for me to get bees. I'll let you know how things go. I am very much a rookie, like I've said, and I'm going to teach you as I teach myself and I learn from others. So, breaking it down. Pollination benefits, tremendous, not just for you, but for your neighbors, and you can sell that to them. Hey, look, I'm giving you more crop yield. You're welcome. Number 2, honey. That's great. Number 3, wax. Number 4, medicinal. Number 5, profit, selling, and just making cash money, which is always good. And fun. It's just a fun thing to do. Anyway, hope this was helpful. Just another intro to my beekeeping. Andy Prepper out.